So in this tutorial, I want to show you how you can combine shapes to make really cool artwork for your board games. Before we start though, I'm going to actually import a new background with an extra shape on it. And to do that, I'm going to go to File. Instead of going Open, which will open the new background in a new window, I'm going to go Place. And so what that lets me do is that lets me place my new shape or my new image directly on the same workspace that I'm already working in. Now I need to rotate this, and I want to show you that too. An easy way to rotate is to just hover near the corner of the shape, and then you can rotate. And now if I want to rotate it exactly 90 degrees, so I'm going to hold down the Shift key while I rotate, and that makes it snap to 15 degrees. And now I can just, because I've got my snapping tool on up here, I can just snap it like that. Let's get it snapped to the corner. Boom. And so now I've got my new shape, and so my new board. And what I did was I added in some mountains and clouds here that I'm going to try and make using shapes. So you can see here my new image has shown up at the top of the layers. So I'm going to just double click on that and call that board 2. And I'm just going to drag it down here so it's below the curves. And actually, where did it go? Let's just try that again. Drag it down here, and I'll turn off the old board. So there we go. Okay, so now we're going to start drawing these mountains. So I'm going to start by adding a new layer on top. I can even call that mountains. Just help myself keep track of all the different layers. So with that selected, I'm going to start adding some shapes. So the shapes are over here in your toolbar. You can do a regular square, and you'll notice as I click on these, the context menu changes. So it's worth exploring the different things that you can change about all the different shapes using the context menu. What I want to show you is under this little arrow here, there's lots and lots of other shapes that you can use. So I'm going to start with my triangle tool, and I'm going to draw out a triangle about the size of my mountain. And now you'll notice with every shape I draw, if I hover over near the blue lines, my cursor turns into a move tool. So I can now move this over my first shape and just resize it. Whoop. So the problem there was I didn't hover over the blue line, so I accidentally drew another shape. Okay, so that's going to be one of my first mountains. Now, clearly I don't want it to be this color. So the problem is, if you look up here in my swatches, by the way, if you can't find swatches, you need to go to Window. Oh, you can't do that right now. And then Swatches, and you'll be able to find it. So I'm going to click on the ring here, and I'm going to make my outside transparent, and I'm going to click on the Fill button, and I'm going to go over to here to Color, and I'm going to find a color for it. So it's a mountain. So I probably want it to be kind of a mountain. I want it to be a little bit orange, a bit grayer than that, I think, something like that. Okay. All right. So I've got my triangle, and now I want to put some snow on top. So to do that, I need to combine shapes. And you'll notice that when I select a shape, all these tools, there's all these combination tools in the toolbar that you can use to combine shapes and also move them around, like move them up or down in relation to each other. So I'm going to go to my teardrop tool here. I'm just going to draw out a teardrop. And I'm going to use my move tool to move it over here. And you can see, because I've got snapping on, everything lines up nice and easily. And now I'm going to change that to white. Maybe a bit more of a white. There we go. Okay, so now hopefully this is going to work. Actually, let's change the color to a bit more of a... Select the teardrop. You have to make sure you select the layer before you apply the color or the other anything else you want to apply to the layer. Okay. So what I want to do now is I want to make this teardrop a child layer of the triangle. What that does is it means that the only the part of the teardrop that's inside the triangle will show through. Okay, so, and I can use this again. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and add a shadow to this. So if I get a rectangle, and I'm going to draw a rectangle over half of this, and let's make the rectangle black. Now, that's too much of a shadow, clearly. So I want to show you another trick. There's this thing called opacity. So each of these layers you can make less transparent. So if I click on here, I get a little slider. So let's make that rectangle more transparent. Now, of course, I don't want this whole rectangle out here. So what I can do is I can drag it down to the till it's below the. I can drag it till it's below the triangle, and I move it in a little bit to make it a child, and I let go, and now I've actually got a mountain with a shadow on it. Okay, now I'm going to, of course, later have to hide this behind my board so it doesn't all show up, but we'll worry about that later. Right now I'm just trying to make my mountains and clouds. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go get my move tool, and I'm going to select, whoops. So it's a good lesson learned. I moved the background. So to make sure that doesn't happen, I'm actually going to go up here and I'm going to lock it. So now I can't move it. Okay, so now I'm just going, I think I need to lock that one too. Now I shouldn't be able, not even sure what that was I was dragging. Okay, so now we can select all of my mountains. So I want to make copies of it. So of course I can go Control C, Control V to make copies, or with the Move tool selected, I can hold down the Command or Control key, click on it, and keeping the button, the mouse button held down, I can make a copy. So I hold down the Command key, click on the mouse button, and I make a copy. Okay, and so there's my mountains. So those are looking pretty good. And now I want to add in some clouds. So for the clouds, I'm going to go and use this rounded rectangle. So I'm going to add in this rounded rectangle here, and I'm going to move it off the screen a little bit. Okay, so with the rounded rectangle, you can see I've got lots more features up here in the context toolbar. I can change the kind of corner, and I can change how much it's, so I can just go in here and I can curve the corners like that. I also, with shapes, get these little orange nodes that I can click and drag. So you can either change the shape like that, or you can change it like that. There's often more than one way to do these things. And so now we're going to move that around somewhere like that. Let's go pick a color for it. So it's a cloud. So I'm going to want it to be, so let's go and see if we can make it kind of, we want it to be a little bluish, so it looks a bit sky-like, but let's go something like that. And now you can, so now I can again hold down Command and click and drag, and I can make a copy of it. If I need to, I can just change that, and I'm going to give it a little bit. And so the rounded parts all together make it look kind of cloud-like. So something like that. And so there, by combining shapes, I have made some artwork that maybe would look good on my board. So last step is, and you can see here, everything was built on this one layer. Okay, so that nice, helps me keep everything nice and organized.